Good morning everyone, welcome to my channel. Okay, let me just bring you up to speed at where I'm actually at. I had a lovely day yesterday. I filmed I think 3 videos in a row, so it was great because I could just make a mess and then just keep going, and I just hit stop play or stop record. So I achieved a lot, and then at the end of the day I went to the sewing machine and did all of that type of work to embellish the journals, and I also stitched the signatures in. Now, if you are disappointed that you didn't see the stitching in of the signatures, there are so many videos out there on doing that. If you just type in pamphlet stitch or stitching signatures into a journal, even just head to Rachel's channel, Roxy Creations. Probably every 3 or 4 videos she's stitching in something. So I do apologise, but it's pretty boring stuff. So I will bring you up to speed on the journal so far. I'll probably work in this one, so I'm going to leave that for a moment. Now this little one, it evolved somewhat with a closure as well. So I'll just show you what I did there first. So I ended up popping in a little rivet, and I got some sari silk, which is probably nearly a metre in length, folded it in half and brought it through that hole. Then I added a little knot here just to stop it from sort of sliding. And then as you come along the sari silk, I added this key with a knot, and then I got to the very end and added 2 knots. Okay, so the plan is for this particular closure, it will wrap around to the rear of the journal, coming around to the front. It'll go around again. Let me just untangle my key. It'll go around then a second time, so we're back to the front. Now the key, not only is it decorative, but it makes it really easy to slide in behind the wrap. Otherwise, you're struggling to get that through the wrapped section of the seam binding. So that's, the double benefit of having one of these keys added to your journal. Plus it looks super cool. And then when you want to undo the journal, they just pick up the key, slide it back through, and then of course just unwrap it. So that's how I decided to do this closure. All right, so let's have a look in the journal itself. Now, what did I do? There was a belly band at the front here. So using a piece off of my snippet roll, I've just glued that into position, and it's just lots of scrappy pieces of lace. Now, I tend to make meters and meters of this in one big session. I might spend a Saturday morning doing it. I'm running out of snippets, so all I do is I tear a piece of calico in a 3/4 of an inch strip, and then I go through and find all my little scrappy bits, lay them down layer upon layer, and then when I'm happy I've got a few layers, I do it as I sew. I'll run a stitch down through the one side of the calico and then come back and do a second stitch. I don't know if you can see the 2 stitches there. Yeah, there you go. Okay, and it's just bits and bits and bits. I will go through some of my basic fabrics, like say this cloth with a few words printed on it. That's a bit of, I don't know what that is, very soft, thin fabric from a handkerchief by the feel of it. And I will cut them up into squares no bigger than, where's my ruler? Probably 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters. So pieces like this, I'll go through and just cut them all up into bits, and I'll line them all up in piles. So all different tones of cream, calico, just little bits, rip, line them all up, and then have a little pile of just snippets of lace that I've collected. So I tend to have like a little pot that I just throw things in. Having said that, since slow stitch has come along, that pot doesn't have a lot in it, so I would probably have to go hunting and pull out some yardage of a lace and then cut that up into some little bits and pieces So once you've got your little piles, it's really quite easy then just sort of to grab and place and stitch on the sewing machine as you go. And once you get that one line of stitching down, it will hold. So that's how I make my snippet roll bits and pieces, and they're fantastic for belly bands. And to have them ready made that you can just lay them down and glue them on, it's really, really handy. So this was the piece of scrapbook paper that was left. So all I did was run around the sewing machine. This journal has a lot of this decorative stitch in it. I've used one of my favourite little leaf stitches. So if you do have a sewing machine that has decorative stitches, have a play with them because they really do add some different feels to your journals. And then I also backed it with the dyed paper. Now it did have nice paper on the back, but just to sort of theme it more into this journal, I decided to cover that. I think it was a gingham look like this in the beige. Oh no, I can see it. It's the timber look. So that's just been sort of glued and stuck down on the paper and cut out. So pretty basic sort of stuff. So that will slide in under that belly band. Then I went through and just added a little decorative stitching to all of the pages. And in this case, I also added a tab just to show you that you can, you know, open that up and have a little look. So that's the first one. This was just a scrap that was cut off. Some of the pages folded over like this, and to get rid of the bulk on those edges, I cut those strips off, and that gave me 2. So they're through the journal. And being that was glued in after I had stitched in the signature, I ended up just doing a little zigzag stitch at the top and bottom and then glued it down in position. So that was added after the signature was stitched in. So it just goes to show that if you do some stitching when they're just loose pages, that's great. But then if you get to the decorating stage and you want to have that look, you can still do it and then put glue behind. So it does look like there's sewn in there, but unless you peeked at this side and realise that it's not. But at least it will give you that look. So I had something I was going to say then. No, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. So we had a triangular pocket stitched up there, and I've got a box of tricks just here off camera that is whenever I just don't have any mojo and I just want to do something really simple, I might print out one of my kits, like for example Rachel's kit, and she has in there journal cards, all sorts of themes, all sorts of colour tones, and I just glue them to some dyed paper so they're stitched and ready to go. Now I'll probably embellish this a little bit more. Some of them are just gorgeous as they are, so you don't need to do too much. Some of them are more simple, so you can really theme them to what you sort of want to do. So I just pulled out a couple at this stage just to slide in a few pockets. I guess really just to remind me that they're there, and as I work through the journal doing some decorating, I've got some options to go hunting for some bits that are pre-made, which is always nice. So as I flip through, you can see the decorative stitching on the pages. This is a little envelope, once again from we'll call it my stash. It is from a kit that I do not remember where I got it. I printed out one of each page, and I think there was, 3 or 4 pages, but I accidentally put a 0 in the print. So I got heaps of them, and I didn't want to throw them. They're all different. They're all different colours. You may recognise them. I'm just not 100% sure where they've come from. If I go hunting, I'd probably find them, but there was heaps of them. So to make them a little bit special and to make me feel a little bit better about what I did in the way of the error, I laid the whole page down on some calico, glued them down, and then I let them dry, cut them out, and then I took them to the sewing machine and I stitched around them because they were sort of like a all-in-one piece. Like you can see there, it went up and around, and then it scooted over here, then it come back, did the flap at the bottom. So it was one continuous line of sewing machine. So it was really simple. And then I just folded them up and popped them in my little box of tricks for a rainy day. So finally, I'm getting to the bottom of them. I reckon I had 50 of them. You cannot understand how disappointed I was when I realised that I had made that error on the printer. It happens, but I was determined to make them into something a little bit special, and they've been handy to grab, you know, just to even put a little gift card in for a friend. So they're lined with calico, they're sewn, and they're folded up, ready to go. So you've got to love that. So I do love them now, even though it was a boo-boo, a big boo-boo. Okay, so what else have I done? So pretty much these pages are just stitched. I haven't done any decorating yet. I'll do that as we continue in our series. I was starting to pick up some snippets of fabrics that were lying around, and of course that fabric is on our cover. So I've just glued it as a little fabric page piece there. There's some little pockets here that can have something put in. That was an offcut, so I put that there. There was nothing of Edith written underneath, so it was lovely because it just fit there nicely. I can slide something in. So I think I've really kept the Edith books as whole as I can without them feeling weird in a journal and not being too cut up bitsy. It's really tricky. It takes a bit of thinking to get through. But even, you know, that in itself is just beautiful, and it's just lovely just to have a little read of what she was thinking at the time. Not that I'm a fan of sideways pages, but sometimes they do work. Okay, another little pocket there, a little flip out there. Okay, now I definitely created the signature and I stitched it into the center of our journal. Now, if you remember, with this particular journal, we had on the opposite side another flip out this edge. There was one either side. So that one over there and this one here. So I did continue with the plan of attaching a second little journal to that flip. There's the back page technically, and then the little flip is just here. And then this got glued on. So it worked beautifully. I'm pretty happy with it. So it's actually got two journals within this paper bag. So this little guy not only flips out to reveal a pocket on the back of the signature, we'll call it a signature because here's the stitched in pages here. So it's actually a signature. So it could have sat next to this one, but instead we've put it out on this flip. There's our little lace pocket at the back here that needs some bits in. That's the second one of those large journal cards. There was one in the front, so I thought I'll pop that there just to give that gingham a bit of a pretty feature. And this folded over, creating a tuck at the front of the signature. I put a tab at the top because I found when I was flipping through it, I couldn't find the start of the second signature. So by putting this little tab at the top here, all I got to do is run my hand along the top and I know that's the vicinity of where it splits into two. So we'll just have a quick flip through this signature. I've just popped a few little bits and pieces in there. This page here, this is a funny story. This was in, if you're following my charity journals, where I'm making 20 journals to be gifted to people in need that are being sponsored by my friend's work. She's a teacher, and her cluster of teachers have selected probably 6 or 7 families, and in that family we get the name of everyone and their age. And Marianne and I make a heap of journals. It's a similar pattern, it's just mass production, but we do change up the colours. So when we get the list of people, we can see there might be Bethany, who's 65, Mary, who's 50, Teresa might be 13, and there might be a 10-year-old. So then we go through that family, and there'll be boys in amongst it, and we pick out all the girls, Then we go to our journals and we match a journal to those ages. So when the hamper is created for Bethany, Teresa and Mary, the journal is part of it. So the last few years we've done this, and last year we made 16 journals, and I was doing it by myself for a few years and just, you know, Marianne had help here and there. But last year the list went to 16 or 15, something like that. And I usually get the list late in the year, and as you know, I'm in the Christmas industry. So it was just so much work, and I had to call in the girls, Marianne and her sisters and some nieces on Marianne's side. She's got a very big family. So we did a 3-day weekend at one of the girls' houses, and we just worked and worked round the clock, morning till night, late into the night. One of them was a cook, so she just fed us, and we went like troopers. Well, where I'm heading is we're in the process of making 20 journals. I'm hoping we only need, say, 11, and I've got enough for next year. That's the plan, but we'll see. So I've been slowly working through them all year, and it's been much more pleasurable because it hasn't been such a big push at the very end. So really, really pleased that I've sort of been chewing away at it. And whenever Marianne comes over for dinner or her sisters, we might have a big get together. I say, righto girls, as soon as we've finished lunch, 2 o'clock, into my craft room, and I've set up projects for them all to do in the process, and they've just come together beautifully. So I have filmed sections of that, and I've got 2 videos yet to be released to you guys, which I'll probably do later in the year, ready to go, which is sort of how we're proceeding. Anyway, long story short, I'm wasting so much time here. This page was in one of the signatures as just a decorative piece, and I'm stitching them all in and everything's going great. Marianne and I are starting to put pockets through the whole journal, and this was upside down. So yes, it had to get torn out, as you can see by that rough edge. So we just tore it out of the signature. No one will ever know, bar everyone I've just told. I've then just kept those pages, and yesterday I trimmed up that raw edge, put a second line of decorative stitching down there, and Bob's your uncle got a piece of ephemera. So this second one is just sort of sitting in my little box of tricks. Who knows what that'll be used for? Probably the same scenario. And it's perfect. It's thin. It suits. So that is just slid in there. And that's another one of Rachel's little cards, which I'll probably embellish a little bit more. So once again, I'll just flip through the journal. I didn't do too much decorating because I'll do that with you guys over the next few videos. This is a little Rachel pre-made piece. One of her cards, journal cards. I added the fabric that connects to this series, and I had some, another thing I do by the meter. It's really handy because I often use this zigzag stitch on pages, is I tear a strip of calico and I will run through the sewing machine meters and meters of it, and then I just wind it onto a snippet roll, a bobbin, and then pop a pin in it, and I can snip. So if I want a quick easy tab, a tab top, or even a hinge, they're really good to glue on the side, and you can have a little flip. So another little easy, mass produce, handy to have, and you could do all sorts of decorative stitches along those. So I've got a little bit of that sitting on my table in case we need it. Now that was the envelope coming around, that I wanted to add an envelope to each journal, and there it is there. So it's through the signature, and that's the flap. In this journal, I've actually glued it down, but before I did, I reinforced it a little bit. So I've left this one flapping at the moment so that I can do that with you guys. There's the bit I cut off of a page, is now a belly band. And a little flip out there, and then of course we're at the back page, which is attached to the flip. So that's where this journal is at the moment. Really happy with it. It's sitting well. I won't be able to do too much embellishing. I can't go crazy, but I did end up putting a second fold in here. So there's a good 1/4 of an inch seam there that will allow for things to expand. But, you know, it can't go crazy because it will be a gator mouth pretty quick, I would say. And it seems to be closing quite well with the wraparound, which goes around, as I said, twice. And then the key becomes the piece that comes through just to close it. Really simple. Very, very simple closure. Now, this seam binding I buy from Australian Lady, and I haven't had a chance to have a look at where I get that. I'll have to go back through my Etsy stores, and I really do need to do a bit of a top-up order. Really good price. You get a good little bag of it. Now, where's my container of that? This here. This is a little toolkit thing I found at a tool supply place. And in here was little containers that men or workmen or work ladies could put nuts and bolts and screws and things in. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. But it's really great because I've got all my seam binding in here from this particular company. But I'm getting pretty low on those neutral tones. I've got lots of the, so whatever was in that is needing to be replaced. So I'll go hunting for my seam binding lady. I'll do a order to restock, and I will let you know in the description below. So by the time this video goes to air, it'll be seam binding Etsy store link below. Now this is part of 3 that stand in a plastic case and they slide in. So another good storage idea. Great to take if you're going somewhere. You can fill one of them with maybe bits and pieces that you need. And then you just carry that one little case. Sometimes I take the whole box. I can just pop it straight into the boot of the car and I'm off. And I know I've got everything I need in there. So go for a look in tool shops. We've got quite a few now popping up in Australia that are massive. So they'll have, you know, they're just huge, even Bunnings. But go and have a look at the no-name. Oh, they're not no-name, but they're not Bunnings. There might be Sydney Tools is one that just comes to mind. Repco, Super Cheap. All of those types of brands, they have storage solutions for the garage. In there is often really robust containers that we can use in our craft rooms. I find that the ones that we have access through, Spotlight, Lincraft and cheap shops, tend to be flimsy plastic. For example, this one here is a 3-drawer combo. Gee, I'm getting off the track. A 3-drawer combo. See how it's wobbly? The whole thing is wobbly. Now, admittedly, it was probably only $12, $13. I probably paid $20. For an extra $10, I could have probably got something that was really heavy duty at a tool shop. And I think it's because these are good for a craft room, where the other items are good to sit on the back of a utility or a truck and be slammed around all day and have to really hold up. So, I don't know, it gets pretty rough in my craft room. I think my plastics need to be pretty tough. They get slammed around all day and they go into the boot of my car from time to time. Just saying. Just having a sip of my coffee. Okay, journal number 2. Journal number 3 is still in bits behind me on the floor. I had to just focus on 2. It was getting a bit helter-skelter in my brain. So I thought I'll just leave the book cover one, the Edith book cover one, to next and get these 2 paper bag journals sort of through my little system. And it's because they're sort of similar. So anyway, that was my theory. Now this little girl, she's coming along nicely too. As you know, we had the pocket at the front of the cover of the paper bag journal. And what I did is I put together a cluster of papers, stitched them into the Edith page, which was the 2 floral pieces. just to make it a little interesting, I left them all hang out the end of a little wrap. And in there is a little bit of Shakespeare and just some coffee dyed paper. And of course, the snaky page, which I will decorate. So this centerpiece will have some embellishing done on it. I probably won't do anything to that because I really like the little poem that she has in there, which is not hers. It's written by Motherwell. So we'll see. I might be able to do something up here, but I'll definitely have a little play in that little book. So that slides in nicely there. And then once again, I went to my stash and picked out a Roxy Creations card, which is ready to go. Just needs a little bit of embellishing, and that I thought matched in beautifully there. Okay, so that's the cover. I added a couple little charms to this one. So I do apologise if that clinking annoys you. Now, on the inside, we had our lace pocket, which was a double pocket. Once again, some little tags of Rachel's yet to be embellished. I put some fibres on there, round the edges, ink them, etc., etc. But at least they're sort of sitting there. Now, this is from My Porch Prints. Love, love, love all of their kits. This one, I think, is a rabbits one. It might be called French Rabbits. And it has so much ephemera in there. You'll see it pop up from time to time because I have it printed out. I used it a lot in the journals for charity. Like some of these are all from My Porch Prints. What else have I got there? I can't see anything off the top of the pile. But anyway, there's lots of goodies in those sorts of theme kits. They have a sewing, a cooking, grandma's kitchen, birds. It's stunning, the birds one. I'll have to find the birds one for these journals because it'll work in beautifully. And then the rabbits. I think that's the 4 that I own. So this was pre-made. Once again, I've got probably 20, 30 different envelopes made, and I can just grab them. There's some are stitched, some aren't. Sometimes they're just backed with the paper, like print the envelope, glue it to some tea-dyed paper, coffee-dyed, Parisian dyed, glue it down, let it dry, cut it out, fold it, and then just stick it in your little box. I don't glue them shut until I know what I want to do with the envelope. And in this scenario, I was more than happy to stitch around them. So that will go in the front, and that can have some little treasures put in it at a later date. Now, the journal itself, the signature that I created is stitched in, just the one signature. Got plenty of room in this journal. And if it does get a little bulky, I decided to add a closure within the journal. So this just flips over. It could also have a closure around. If this got really chunky, by all means, this could have a closure added. But at the moment, I don't think it needs it, but we'll see. Depends how much I add to it. So the little closure, after I stitched in the signature, what I did was I got a piece of the seam binding again, glued it to this flap, which is sort of becoming part of the closure, and put a little piece of cardstock over it so it's nice and secure. And my plan is to glue some more Snippet down there. So let's do that now. And that way it's done because it was flipping around in my hands here. So I'm using some of my glue stick, and then just for added fast grip, I'm going to use some of the art glitter glue. That really grips fast, and then it can slowly dry with the rest of the glue. Got a big piece of cotton attached. This is the fun bit. We've got our signatures in. The pages have been embellished a little bit. Some pockets are in. And now we're getting to the adding textiles. and things like that. So let's just have that glue down. Okay, there we go. So now I might just add a little bit of glue there, because as I pull that back, I can see into the workings of my closure. So we just need a little bit of glue there just to make that. I might even put a little stitch in there just to make sure it holds, because I don't want it to start coming apart. I don't think it will, but I'd rather have it nice and secure. Okay, so this little piece, this I believe is Artie May's, one of those random things that can often pop up on free subscriptions. Like Artie May's will do free bits and pieces, and this was one she did some time ago, and I spotted it, printed it out, backed it, stitched it, and then added this little calico strip, so it's ready to be glued in and you know, added to the piece. So I just thought I'd pop it in there. I know I want to add it somewhere. So we've got a little envelope here attached to the front signature that is glued down now, and I put a little bit of paper in behind there just to make it a little bit more rigid so that it can easily hold, you know, a little tuck. So what else have I done in here? Similar sort of story as before. The odd little pocket, the odd little fold out. That needs some decorating. It's sort of quite neutral. So that's got plenty of scope to do something on. We've got a pocket here. That was an off-cut. What else have we got? More places to decorate. So as you can see, I'm sort of at the embellishing stage. There's our little nest. I ended up changing this a little bit. It didn't fold like this originally. It was I think it was the other way. That was folding in. I ended up refolding it so it sat like that. And I cut off the bit that was here. And it sort of made like a double tab. I sort of felt like it was a little bit more decorative, and it was sort of more inclined to open, and it was sitting within your journal. When it opened before, it was out here. So have a little think about when you do a tri-fold page where it's folded a couple times to make it fit. Have a think about where the folds go and which way they go. And when you open it up, are you heading out here, or are you still within your journal space of the journal? So just a little tip to have a think about the way things bend. Okay, what else have I done here? I think that's about it. So that's where we're at. Oh, in the back pocket, I've just popped a few little elements that I want to use. A couple more Rachel tags. They're perfect for these little pockets. This was just a snippet of cardstock left from when I did my signature pages. And I just put in there some little bits and pieces. So there's a little bit of Shakespeare and some of my dyed pages. So just to make a little notebook. And I used the sewing machine to stitch them in. It just went zip straight down. Easy, rounded the corners. It could have a little bit of embellishing, which I will probably put a little label on. And then I've added a couple of these postcards. Once again, pre-made, ready to go. Just need to be inked, edged. So they're slid in the back. Okay, that's where we're at. I'm now going to have a play, do a little bit of embellishing. So in front of me here, I have my box of pre-made bits and pieces. I might just show you, because there's always storage ideas in there for everyone as well. So this is my lace and how it's sitting. That needs to go over there. So that's a drawer that holds all my little doily bits. I think I got it from Kmart. It's a stack of 2 drawers. They're all cut and laid in there, little ones in a bag. So I can just grab whatever I like, and they're all stacked accordingly. And then this is just some random laces that can be used, and a zip, random laces that can be used to embellish. Now these pieces in the corner here I've added for the sake of this video because I want to add bits and pieces of lace throughout the pages. And then whenever I get a lace pack, you get often all sorts of random things, or you go to a op shop and you get random things. I just wind them on pieces of card by colour. So it just makes it easy to grab. And then if I'm sort of out and about and I see a bag of pink laces, I can see here that I'm starting to get, you know, through my pinks. A few dyed laces in behind there. So this is sort of my go-to lace by the meter bucket, if that makes sense. Okay, so I've just got that sitting on there directly in front of me. I've got the printed pages to do a bit of collaging, which will be what I'm going to use. I've then got all my books that I've got that hold my ephemera labels and random, you know, words and sentiments and things like that. I then got a little bit extra lace that I spotted at the last moment that can be cut up and added to these journals. That's a blouse. That's off of a large tablecloth edge. So they're just sitting there as well as potential grabs and snip. What else have I got? And then to my side here, I've got the big glue book that I'm going to use that come out of the cover that we've created, the bird cover. And then a little bit further along, I've got my ink. I've got 2 glues. I've got my thingy-me-jiggy to make sure everything glues down, a little pair of scissors and a ruler, and that's it. So that is my go-to tools. Further along at arm's reach, I do have a stationery sorter which has pens, pencils, scissors, clips, paintbrushes, anything extra I could possibly need. So they're sort of, you know, arm's reach. So that's my setup. I'm now in the embellish the journal stage. So let's have a little play. I don't have a lot of time left on this video, but at least we're sort of, you know, ready to go. Now, let's find a home for that because it's rattling around here. We need a spot. We've got a lot of white pages in this particular journal, so it'll be good to work on, being that's flipping that way, I think I'd prefer it to sit on a page that is on this side of the journal. Does that make sense? Maybe I could use it on there. I won't put it on Shakespeare. He's old. He's a little frail. I might put it on there so that you could write underneath it. Okay, that's found a home. I've got to be careful I don't go crazy embellishing, and anything I do add has to be fairly thin, which is really hard when you're starting to get in amongst the laces. But I must be careful. Okay. So that will grab pretty quickly. And that's now got a little flip and can be written behind. I do need to round the corners there, just so that it doesn't bash into anything. Okay, lovely. Let's go back to this. I want to do something with this. Let's have a look at our printed pages. See if there's something there that inspires me. A bit of a fan of those blue ones. It's a blue journal too. Where's that favourite of mine? Where is it? Here it is. I really like, oh, doesn't look right. That's a different blue. Whoops. Nope. needs to be more of a blue or a completely different pattern. That's closer. Yeah, I might use that one. Okay, I'm just going to pop them out of the way. I usually go through, when I print off a heap of these collaging background papers, I usually go through and tear them all down. That way at least I've got some edges that are sort of ready to go. But I haven't done that this time. It will happen naturally as I, you know, work on the journal. So I just need to... But it can save you a lot of time, because by the time you whiz around the edge of them all, if you do that in one hit, they're done. It's a good activity in front of the TV. And like I said with mass production in the last video, I think it was the last one, if you're going to do something and you can do it at least 5 times, do it, because it really does pay off. So I'm going to place that on there. Where's my pencil? And just bring it in a little bit. Mark my tear lines. And just add that using the grid on my... Now I can't see my pencil line. Goodness me. One thing I didn't grab for my table as supplies is some book page. I've got French book page in front of me, but we really don't want too much France, if any. I'm sure Edith travelled. Oh, maybe she did. Don't know. I don't know if you read the comments on some of the videos, but I had this comment pop up. I think it was video 1, maybe 2. It was very early in the process, and it was from a lovely lady, Victoria, who was from the UK. And talk about a small world. She lived next door to Rowena, the grandniece. And she mentioned that she's a lovely lady. She's a very gentle soul, and that she studied art. And I believe she went to art school with a family member of Victoria's. I think that's how the comment went. I do apologise if I've got that a little bit muddled up. It's a few comments ago that I've read, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, how gorgeous. So that piece there is going to glue onto there, and just to make it interesting, I'm going to sew that around with my sewing machine so it looks like it's sort of part of it. Now, what I will do is I'm going to grab a little bit of Shakespeare, so bear with me, and we'll do a bit of collage on it. Sorry, guys. Okay, I also grabbed some music paper, because that's always good to break up a pattern. Not that it's real naturey, but let's have a look. I'm just going to maybe find a bird. So I will have to do some decorating without you guys. Otherwise this will take a month of Sundays. Oh, look at that. Doesn't suit that, but I'm going to stick it in there because I think we can find a home for that. Yeah, we'll need to do some decorating without you because, yeah, this will take forever otherwise. Oh, I like that. No, it's that vellum flowers. They're okay. I sort of don't feel they're too modern feeling. You buy them by the dozens, and I don't think they're suited to what we want to do. There's a label. Vegetation stem. I think we could use that. We just need a bird or I like him. I do have a lot of things fussy cut out, but sometimes it's just that, and purely because this gets a little bit too delicate. So I'm just going to cut this little guy. Oh, before I do, because the white can potentially show up, I just go around the piece before I cut it with my ink and just tone back that white. His beak has been snipped off. Goodness me. I do have little helpers at time that sit and watch myself and Marianne craft. And these little helpers are given the job to do a rough cut like this. And I would say, not pointing any fingers, little birdie here got his beak snipped off. That's okay. At the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And I think I can snip the beak area and give the illusion that his beak is still there. And I think it'll blend a little bit into the background, so it's not going to be noticeable. It's only his tip. If I'm not careful, I'm going to end up snipping his little tail off. I like the birds that have foliage attached to their artwork. Just makes them feel a little bit more natural. There you go. There's a hot tip for anyone out there that makes digital kits. When you do your fussy cut bird kits, have some foliage with them, because I really enjoy. I hope that beak's not too bad. Okay. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Just going to cut the label. So I'm putting a little extra special effort into this front piece because it's right at the front of the signature. So it's sort of the greeting to the page. I'm just going to take that off, clear away my little mess. And there's nothing new here that I'm doing. This has all been done 100 times by everyone, and you're doing it yourself. This is just, you know, crafting away with me. I think that is a definite. That. And then that. Yep, just looking up at my screen. Now I'll just pop some glue on. Easy peasy. If you struggle with collaging, what would I say is my advice? What would I say? I don't know. I think if you're looking at your cluster of something and it doesn't look right, go with your gut. Probably isn't. Try it again. Try it again. You'll know when it's right. It's probably my feeling. And if you're going round and round and round and round and you just can't make a decision, well, then it probably was right and you're just sort of doubting your own abilities. So maybe just start gluing it down. Just put it down. Stop overthinking it. So there's probably a fine line to having yourself just not letting it go. Does that make sense? And so there's sort of two categories, I guess. There's those of us that will procrastinate and go round and round and round and round and probably do it 5, 6, 7 times, the cluster. Well, then you probably find that your cluster is gorgeous and you just need to, you know, glue it down. But if you're unsure of yourself and you don't think it's right, well, just give yourself a bit of time as well. It is a challenge. As for the construction of it, the word cluster, like, keep working in the one little area and you'll find that it just sort of will build and come together, if that makes sense. I was going to add a little bit of cheesecloth under that. It's really hard to teach that. There's all sorts of design elements. At the end of the day, you could go to, I think that glue has adhered, so I'm just going to now add it to the top there. You can go to courses and, you know, and study all this, but at the end of the day, it is a very primal thing. Just a little bit of texture there. I think the biggest advice is give yourself a break. It's only paper, it's only glue. Just stick it down. And I think watch what others do when they see it. You sort of show a few people and see what they think. That can often really help you work out where your design elements are. So there's my little piece. I feel like I need another little element on that. I'm sure there's some little, I've got this little zippy bag full of little random labels, and for the life of me I cannot see it, and I really would like to have it on my table here because it gives me some great little elements. Specimen card labels. Yeah, I'll pop that one on. A little bit of white edging there. So the next stage is I'll take this to the sewing machine and then stitch around it and then add it to my envelope. So I guess design-wise, this cluster is heading in that direction. Does that make sense? I could have put it randomly up the top corner and it probably would have worked as well. I could have probably even put it down the bottom corner and it would have looked all right, that label. But I've headed in that sort of direction. So there probably is some theory behind that, but it looked good. It's making me happy. I guess that's the end of the day. That's all we need. Okay, so that little piece now will glue onto there with some stitching. So that's our little envelope. Now the next thing I have to decide is what I'm going to do with this little envelope. Am I going to leave it as it is and have it open from the side here? I guess that's all deciding on how easy it is to access it. So I'm just going to grab a card from my stash. This one is not bad, but it's a little bit bright. So I'm just going to roll a little bit of my ink over it just to knock back the white. That's it. It will probably have a label put on it, but I won't do it at the moment. What I'm looking at now is seeing which way that pocket can be used. Is that easy to access? Yes, it is. Otherwise, I would have put some paper here and cut the top and it'd be a top-loading pocket. But I'm happy enough that that's not too difficult to access. Sometimes if it was over here and you've got all this paper in your way and you're trying to slide a journal card in, it can be, you know, a little bit obnoxious for the user. So while I'm here, let's find a label. I haven't done any. That's the little ones that I was looking for, but I've got a whole bunch of them cut out. I might grab all those because I'll use them. They're just like random things printed on. They're from Tracey Labels. Link is below. So go and have a little looky, especially if you're doing nature journals. There's some random elements there. I might just grab this little tray. Little Ferrero Rocher's chocolate tray. I love those little trays. I love it when someone gives me chocolates. Straight away I'm like, ooh, I can add that to my craft room. Which one will I use? I think I'll use this one. I'm just going to snip that out. So these pre-decorated journal cards that Rachel does, they all do different versions, but Rachel has quite a lot of them connected to each of her kits. They are really handy for crafters like us because she's done all the hard work with the collaging. She's bringing lace and textures in from vintage pieces that she's collected, of which will never be in my world because A, I don't live in a vintage country like Italy. So to have access to Rachel's treasures, which sort of suit the themes of our journals we make, is, yeah, great. So that little guy will slide in there, and I will do a little bit of embellishing here. So where is our Shakespeare? And we'll do just a little bit of embellishing. Now let's see if we can find a nice feature piece. Might use one of these labels as well, so we'll get him ready. We need to find maybe a flower. Oh, goodness me. So much stuff. At least with needlework, you sort of prep your piece and away you go. I wonder if I could get... Yeah. You prep your piece, pin it all, and then you can pack up everything. And all you're working on is this, you know, piece like so big. How refreshing. But when you're junk journaling or journal making, it, oh my goodness, doesn't it explode? And it's so much time used to do all this. I know I've yabbered along here a bit. Little bird's nest, I like those colours. And my little label. Pretty sure I'm going to continue with that. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of lace, maybe a bit of doily. What have we got here? No, needs to be rectangular in shape, or maybe I don't do anything. Let's have a look at this blouse. Oh, I like that little leaf there. I might just cut through there. It's the shoulder seam. go crazy with all of this because it will be too bulky. No, I don't even like it. No, all right. Walk away from the cluster. Okay, so there's our little envelope. I think we could probably do with a tab. Do I use that as the tab? Oh, I don't mind that. No, I don't like that. Needs to be more of a piece like that. Okay, now we're on to something. How are we going for time? Goodness me, we've hit the hour already. That's okay. I like that. Just a snippet. A little tab of lace on there. Okay, very nice. Happy with that. And then that will go on the front. So there's my envelope decorated, and I've managed to sneak in some texture. So that needs to dry and that needs to be stitched and attached. Okay, everyone, I'm going to stop the video there. I'll do a couple more videos where I just play in the journal. Whether they roll consecutively, who knows? But I'd say the next video at least will still be in this journal because I'm sort of feeling the groove here. All right, I will see you all soon. Bye for now.